Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, editor-in-chief of Leader's Edge. In this episode, I talk with Keith Schuler, CEO of InterWest and the council's new board chair. We discussed his background and brokerage history, industry issues, as well as his focus as board chair. Give it a listen. I am here with Keith Schuler. Keith, CEO of InterWest and the council's new board chair. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We're excited to have you here in Washington. You've just been elected board chair, and we want to hear about what your plans are as chair, as well as your history, your broking experience, some life lessons you may have to impart upon our listeners.
Great.
So we're gonna dive right in. We're gonna go back to 2008.
Right.
Which is when you became CEO of InterWest. It was also during the financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, what did you learn from that experience that you still rely on today?
Yeah, it's a great question because I was asked to take over as president and CEO of InterWest July 1st of 2008. And, that was kind of almost just in the beginnings of the kind of the downturn. Fortunately for me that InterWest had a lot of diversity in its book of business at that point in time. We were really big in the construction area, really big in the agri-space and in financial institutions and sport and leisure, so human services. So we had a pretty wide portfolio, and at that point, construction just took a huge dive, and thankfully, other areas within the organization were a little more stable. So I was very fortunate from that standpoint. But make no mistake, there were some really trying times. And I think one of the things that we did right was that got the leadership in the organization together and set a strategy, and then really communicated that strategy down deep into the organization. Tried to eliminate the fear factor of everything that was going on. So people were focused on development and continue to try to find new opportunities and to try to grow the business in a really difficult time, and which we did. But we set a strategy, we got buy-in, and then it was about communication and ongoing communication, and really trying to bring a lot of transparency into the organization back in 2008. And transparency wasn't a real hot buzzword back in that time. But I would tell you, if I learned one thing, and we utilize it to this day, and that is that don't exhaust a lot of time trying to make the wrong decision right. Acknowledge those decisions, and then move on. Mm-hmm. We do not have the time even today to exhaust time and energy in trying to right size the wrong decision. So we're really good about identifying those and then moving on from them. It's kind of that debrief. You realize that something isn't working. And a lot of times, I think arrogance can get in and make you kind of dive deeper and deeper, and it just creates a groundswell that you can't get out from underneath at times. So we're really good about, again, identifying those decisions and moving on from them. And that's something that resonates within the InterWest organization today.
So as you mentioned, you've been with InterWest for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this a little bit. In today's workforce, you hear about maybe having to adjust expectations for employee longevity. What do you think, should leaders be expecting that kind of longevity, someone who is going to come to your firm and stay for the long haul for their career, or should they be thinking differently about recruiting and retaining talent?
Yeah. So real quick, my background, coming out of college, I went to work for Chubb, and I was a commercial underwriting trainee, and I was with Chubb for a couple of years before moving in January of '88 to an organization that then became InterWest in 1992. So I've been with InterWest going on almost 36 years. I always kind of joke with people that I'm a tad institutionalized. It's what I know. I've been there for a very long time. So to answer the question a little differently, and that is that, for the longest time, the insurance industry was really about hire, train, develop, build wealth over time, transfer, and with strategic acquisition. Mm-hmm. So that's alive and well today. That's the long-term play. That's an InterWest, and you see other regional firms across the country that have that same platform. You also see it in some of our publicly traded national brokers, still have that same embodiment. Mm-hmm. But I'd say over the last decade or so, the entrance of venture capital money and private equity money has started down a different path, and that is the acquire, create critical mass, and then make a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a short-term play. It's not nearly as long. The long-term play, which again we talked about, is a heavy investment side. So the returns come much further down the road. So really, it is what is your vision? Again, what's your strategy? And then how well and how effectively can you communicate it to people? And then you need to actually do what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that happened with me back in 1988 when I went to work for InterWest is promises and commitments were made on both sides. Both were honored. I did what I was supposed to do. InterWest treated me the way that they said that they would. That's something that I continue to embody within our organization. And again, it's every decision we make is about a long-term strategy, and that feeds to what our vision is. So there's nothing wrong with either side of it, and you can go down whichever path you wish to go down. But once you've decided and you choose that, then you need to kind of go all in on those strategies and implement. So the beauty of this business, and one of the things I love most about the insurance industry is there's just a million different ways and different directions you can go.
Okay, so your home state of California, it's a common topic in the property market conversation, as you know. There's a few issues here that I want to get into. The first one is a horrific circumstance. Your firm experienced a horrific fire in your area. In 2018, the Carr fire. It affected your clients and employees.
Right.
So it was truly a kind of first responder moment for InterWest. And I just would love to hear your thoughts on what that was like. And you've mentioned it's still ongoing. So
yeah, it was actually the Carr fire, the Tubbs fire, and the Camp fire. They all kind of came about in a very short timeline. And those were fires that were driven by what they called an El Nino wind. And so we had a tremendous wind event, and the fires just were devastating in terms of the scope and the scale that they took, and that they did impact the communities in which we had offices as well as employees. So not only did we out of the Paradise Fire, that area have over 400 clients that experienced total losses. I can't even think of some partial losses that transpired at that point in time. We had roughly about 16 employees that lost everything other than what they came to work with that day. So the thing about events like that is that we had claimants knocking on our door while their homes were still on fire. I mean,
wow.
Within 10 to 12 hours, we had people wanting to know, what was to be done. And what we told our claims folks and anybody that engaged is we don't have answers, but just listen, be compassionate, because there's an emotional component that goes well beyond the insurance component that we had to deal with. And so a lot of funds were set up through Butte County and other areas. But the one that again hit us the hardest was the Camp fire in the Paradise area. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up canceling all of our holiday events and taking all of the monies that were to be allocated towards parties and whatnot, and created our own internal fund and not only help our staff, but to give back to those communities in which we live and work in. It's part of our guiding principles, and that was a great illustration of how we did things. What was amazing to me is we had clients in other parts of the state that knew what was going on and were reaching to us as to how they could help, whether it be the gathering of coats and clothing since we're going into the winter months, just the outreach and the humanitarian side of people really shows up at time of crisis. It doesn't matter where you live or where you reside. People want to try to help and extend that hand. What I would say, kind of reflecting back upon it, of our staff that lived in the Paradise area that lost their homes, I believe that only 3 of the 16 have returned. It was a complete and utter displacement. It was a displacement of 25,000 people in the matter of about 24 hours. The town of Paradise, while has kind of rebounded lightly, I mean, it will never, I don't think in my lifetime, it will not be even close to the same.
It's hard to hear those kinds of stories. Do you feel like there are things that the insurance industry can be doing that they aren't, or that the governments can, or some sort of combination to help with risk mitigation in these, or risk transfer in a different way?
I don't think it's necessarily an insurance solution because I don't know if that there's enough money for it to be a pure insurance solution. I think it needs to be a combination of some mitigation and best practices. I think that it is something that our legislative arm in California needs to work with the insurance industry to come up with creative solutions, which we're not doing right now. I think there's winds of change, but it needs to happen much faster. I use the example that some of the fires that transpire in California 30 years ago would have just been open, burnt land. Well,
Yeah.
today, urban sprawl and you look at it, whether it be in Southern California, even in areas in Northern California, where development has gone up into these beautiful canyons, and you have, one-way egress, one road that goes up into a canyon, and you have, high-valued homes that are built in these areas. Those are now areas that are at high risk, and those are the areas that are very difficult for us to place traditional placed insurance upon. So, you have a lot of factors at play, and best practices mitigation has to be a part of it. And I know that there's a lot of work being done throughout California, but a lot of it is being done from a private standpoint, not from a public standpoint. And people need to take some responsibility for the areas in which they live and work in, and make sure that we're providing the best ability to fight or even try to prevent the fires from occurring.
Yeah, I know there are some specialized groups that do things like work with local fire departments and
Right.
try to get them in there, and when they, but it seems like it is very small group based.
There's a lack of consistency, and it's really predicated upon I think the individuals, whether it be individual homeowners associations or certain areas that need to take the lead on how to mitigate, and they do need to work with the governmental agencies and the fire departments and CDF and trying to find the best ways to minimize the impact when fires occur, and early detection, and I think best practices around just prevention is a huge piece. And there are reasons why we have markets that are putting things on hold in terms of their willingness to take on additional exposure. I mean, the tens of billions of dollars that were experiencing losses in such a short vacuum.
Yeah.
There's not enough money in the system to recoup that. So there needs to be a multi-party solution.
And urban sprawl actually is another, comes up in another issue that we've talked about with you, which is water and sort of water management and drought that is occurring, and water rights in California is one of the states where this is a big issue. So talk to us a little bit about that from your perspective. And again, sort of what you see as the main issues, if they're different than what we just discussed, and then if there are any solutions that come up as you're
Right.
seeing.
So last time we talked, we were probably in the throes of what would have been a 3-year drought.
Yeah.
And then we had one of the wettest winters on record.
Right.
So feast or famine.
Yeah.
The water, the demand and draw on water throughout California has to do with our agri community, which is huge.
Yep.
It's our industrial and the manufacturing side. There's a lot of use of water that people, I think, just don't even really recognize. And you look at at a state with its populace, and then you look at where the populace is, and the majority of it is in areas that doesn't have water. Down into Southern California, the majority of the water comes from Northern California. We're behind in terms of storage facilities. There's the re-advent of the Sites Reservoir, which should have been built 30 plus years ago. It was part of a multi-reservoir project. So we don't have the storage that we need to have. The water is really inconsistent in terms of how we get it. We're really blessed with the winter of 23. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And the snowpack at some record highs. So, we have a bit of relief, but I think that there just needs to be a much more concerted effort on how we use the water, and not just from a domestic use standpoint, but all across the board. And we're pretty deeply involved in the agribusiness side. We insure a lot of farming and ranch organizations, and they've changed their practices immensely and have been doing so for quite some time in terms of how they irrigate and trying to less evaporation, more direct on water, and so I think that community self-governs the best it possibly can.
Mhm.
But it really is, we move a lot of water around the state of California,
Yeah.
and that's not always the best, because if you take from one, there's going to be other issues that come with it, to the point where we've had some new water districts pop up trying to maintain and keep the water in the locations and the
Mhm.
geography in which they need it, so that it doesn't get taken and shifted um, down down to Southern California.
Okay, let's move away from that a little bit, but still in some difficult issues. Thinking about the industry as a whole,
Right.
what do you think needs to be addressed first, short term, 1 to 2 years, maybe, and then in the long term, what are we looking at for real sustainability in whatever area of insurance you see the need?
So I'm probably going to take this in a different direction than you would think. We could spend, a day, and they're much brighter minds than mine relative to the insurance, the delivery, the coverage, the capacity, the pricing that I think has forever changed.
Mm-hmm.
My take on it is human capital, and that I think the industry does an amazing job branding within itself. I don't necessarily believe that we brand our industry very well externally.
Mm-hmm.
There's tens of millions of dollars on advertisement about our industry, and none of it, in my mind, is going to attract the best and brightest talent.
Mm-hmm.
That, we are an industry that I think there's been all kinds of acronyms. This silver tsunami, we're an aging industry. And one of my passions and one of InterWest's passions is to get younger.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for 20 years. And it takes concerted, long view to it. I think that the industry needs to continue and find newer ways to attract young talent to what is an international business, which is a global business, which I think it is one of the best financial institution practices there is. There are so many different ways and different directions you can go and take and build your careers within it. But it does not have the curb appeal that it should have. Now, I will tell you that almost everybody, including myself, that once they get into the industry and they're there for 2 to 3 years, wish that they'd come to it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if we don't take a concerted effort to draw upon good young talent early, that we'll always fight an uphill battle on getting talent within within the industry, and by broadening that, it addresses the DE&I issue that we continue to talk about, that is not going to go away, and that we talk about it in InterWest, that we're looking for diversity of experience and diversity of thought beyond just the standard diversity and inclusive side of it. And in order to get that, we need younger people that have got different backgrounds that come and want to be a part of the business. And so I don't think this is just a 1 to 2 year issue. This is a 1 to 2, 5 to 10, 10 to 15 year, because the industry is not going away, and the opportunities are immense. And as an example, the council was really helpful, as well as some of the council members, in helping InterWest establish our internship program.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good example of it. But what I find interesting is that I meet with our internship group about 4 weeks in every year. It's my favorite meeting of the year, is to meet with these interns. And I ask them the question individually. I want to know about their background, but I want to know why they applied for the internship program at InterWest. And then what have they learned, or what has surprised them about it? And it's interesting that the answers you get, but the most consistent one is that they had no idea, once they're there, what InterWest really did, what the industry was about. And our our internship program is a very hands-on. They do a lot of different things. They experience everything that we do as an organization. And that I think the breadth and scope of what we do is what catches them off guard, or what is their surprise moment. And inevitably, I would say that probably 80-90% of them want to stay with InterWest or want to stay within the industry once they've come through that program. So, that to me is just a small example of how we need to really kind of broaden the way that we look and approach and where we look for new talent in the industry itself. To me, I think that is without the influx of young talent in the organization, we are in troubled waters.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And there's really no shortage of learning. If young interns are excited about discovering the breadth of what you're doing, I find that too in working at Leaders Edge. There's just no shortage of something new to learn about. So I think that's a good selling point.
No, you're absolutely right. Closing in on close to 40 years in the business, I'm experiencing new things constantly. And, it to me is what's exciting about it. It's what continues to keep me energized as a part of our organization, as well as even being involved with the council, which has just been tremendously impactful for our organization. And, I preach loud and clear that I don't care where the next great idea comes from. I just want to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, where do we go with that? And I think that's a big part of diversity, is those new ideas and those new thoughts. And I that to me is where I grab inspiration, is from those new out of the box ideas that we can possibly manipulate or act upon.
Okay. 2 more questions for you. First one is, as board chair, you're just starting your tenure. Is there anything specific that you're focused on?
Well, first, let me say that even to be considered as board chair for the council was quite an honor. And I look at the people that, I've kind of watched over the last 4 to 5 years serve in this role. And I'm always amazed at the vision and kind of thoughtfulness that they have. So my goal is to continue on that and obviously just continue with the focus on what the council is. To me, the council is very widely known for some of its deep pillars, the advocacy piece and the strategic meetings that it holds. But I look at the council and I look at the breadth of its offerings and how it's changed over the last 10 years. The 10 years I've been on the board and been involved, and I watched the development of our academy and the alignment with universities relative to insurance-related degrees and promoting the business, the working groups and the depth and the knowledge that you can gain from those. And then I look at the membership as a whole, and I think that the council maybe reaches deep about 30% of its membership relative to the utilization of those programs. The council is an amazing resource for its membership. And if I could have a magic wand and change one thing, it would be driving the resources and tools and the deliverables that the council brings. Talk to them about the academy, get involved in those. And InterWest is a high utilization organization of everything the council does, and we're far better for it. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's kind of what would be something I would like to try and help is drive the message deeper into its membership, because it's just the level and the quality of the programs and the knowledge base that resides at the council can help any firm, regardless of the scale that they have.
I think that's a great point, and something that the council also feels strongly about. So I think you'll be in the right focus.
Yeah, hope so. We'll see. That's If
not, they'll kick you out.
Yeah, exactly. So.
All right, one last question for you, a little bit more fun. Besides insurance, what are you passionate about?
Okay, this is going to sound really cliche, but my wife Shelley is my best friend. So we share an immense passion of the outdoors, and So spending time with her and our friends, whether it be snow skiing, we helicopter ski, we backcountry ski, we hike, we backpack, we spend time on our boat and in the summer times, and we surf and we foil, and just being outdoors and engaging with, again, friends and family. All of our children have kind of followed in those footsteps, that they love the outdoors. So my passion really resides around getting in areas that are quiet and being with people that I enjoy time with. And that to me is, that defines me. What I tell people often is that InterWest in the insurance industry doesn't define who Keith Schuler is. That's not who and what I am. It's what I do, but it's the passion around the other things that the insurance industry has afforded me to do. And that is the adage that Shelley and I live by is, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
I love that. Well, Keith, I hope that Shelley is going to listen to this, because that was an amazingly heartfelt answer that you gave. So I see your passion,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. So thank you. This has been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
That was Keith Schuler, CEO of InterWest and the Council's new board chair. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. For more Leaders Edge podcasts, go to leadersedge.com.